Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I am your host Hajra Sati and today happens to be a fine Friday morning. Jummah Mubarak to everyone who is watching out there, especially on this fine morning in Islamabad. So today is 17th of May and happens to be World Telecommunication Day. And why is there a need to observe this particular day, particularly by the United Nations? The theme of this year of World Telecommunication Day is digital innovation for sustainable development. And we know that we are living in a digital century, in a digital era, and how interconnected we are. But we also know where the penetration of the digital technologies is not there, how much left out or inaccessible those areas in terms of the digital divide, digital gap they are. So in order to further explore how can the digital innovation curb out the discrepancies out there, and how can we further introduce the concept of digital innovation and digital connection within our audiences, particularly how has the situation changed pre-COVID and post-COVID, because we have seen there are lots of new norms that have taken root, particularly not just in Pakistan but across the world. And there's some fun facts that I would like to state out, particularly when we talk about the World Telecommunication Day, is that it took almost 1 year back in the old days to install the first telephone communication line from New York to San Francisco. And this is very interesting fact because nowadays we are so much attuned to mobile phones and we are even forgotten the era of the telephones when they used to run. So it took us so much time to have that connection and the line set. But in order to further delve deeper into how digital technologies can have an uplifting effect on our lives and how it is essential to observe this particular day, I'm very glad that I've been joined by someone who has graced our show so many times previously, and now she's once again on our set. She happens to be Ms. Fatma Anila. She is the Chief of the Business Strategy at the One Network. Assalamu alaikum, Ms. Fatma, and thank you so much for coming to my show.
Thank you very much.
Right. So, Ms. Fatma, now let's first delve deeper into the need to observe this particular day. And we know that the digital technology is such an essential fabric of our lives. We can't extricate the mobile phone or technologies from our life because they are very essential. So, why do we need to observe this particular day?
So basically, the initiation of this day is actually when the International Telecommunication Union has been, formed. So this is the day when the International Telecommunication Union has, taken birth.
Right.
So, but later on, because the whole world needs to be connected. So we cannot live in isolation in irregardless it is this era or any other era in the history. So we need to be connected, and to connect there are a lot of in information technology is required to make you connected. So in the past the only way to connect was to build the road networks, to create an access for the physical communication or the people to move from one location to the other location physically. And we know that in our part of the world, that Grand Trunk Road has been known for that, to connect all the major cities and all the minor communities from basically from Delhi to Peshawar, right? So it's like in Pakistan now it is from Peshawar to Karachi, the whole country is connected. So when we have this communication network, which is the road infrastructure in whatever capacity it is, then we need to build, as the technology improved, we need to build that communication with the people to connect. It's not for the people who are traveling from one place to the other place, but those who are not being able to travel, they also need to connect with the people who have already gone, abroad. So I remember back in times when we were like very small kids, we used to have to wait for, my father tells that he would have to wait for 24 hours at least to book for a trunk call for his brother who was living in UK.
Oh, that's amazing.
So he would just book a call.
True.
And then he would have to wait for 24 hours to get that call connected. And then that call would connect it only for 1 minute and 30 seconds. And then it extended to 3 minutes. So, it's like, and then you don't even know that when are you going to get connected.
Right.
So you would have to wait by your telephone set for the operator to call and tell you that now your call is connected. So you
True.
don't know when it's going to happen. So and then it and now what we're doing now, we can have a video call, now we can have messages and everything. So we are like 24/7 connected with anyone and everyone who is living abroad, and doesn't matter how far they are living now. So they are all connected. So which is why it is very important to be connected. Otherwise, that telegraph used to be the technology, and then telephone comes in, and now the telephone has been enhanced to this level that internet has come and all those technologies.
And thank you so much for pointing it out, because I think we all grew up hearing the stories of, like you mentioned, about the memories that how particularly people used to wait for their messages or for the communication technologies to reach the other part of the world. And I'm pretty sure, like you mentioned, the telegraph, the telegram, and back on those days it was known as the tar, right?
Exactly.
So tar is coming in, and some very important messages were used to send using the tar or the telegram. Either it was a death or the birth anniversary or something else, right? But now we see the evolution of the internet technologies and the communication technologies, or information communication technologies particularly, and now we see that we are the connection that we have nowadays digitally, I think it's unprecedented. Never in the world this connection, this sort of connectivity was witnessed before. But Ms. Fatma, also now let's explore, when we talk about the digital upgradation, when we talk about the expansion you associated with one network, so how are you involved or invested in particularly digital technologies and upgrading the life of the people through the use of internet technologies or other communication technologies?
Thank you very much. So like I said, I mentioned about the GT roads. So Pakistan has built to improve this communication and reducing the travel time between the cities. Pakistan has built the motorways.
Right.
So primary reason for building these motorways is basically to reduce the travel time and to make the markets accessible across the country,
Right.
From the producers to the market, from the industry to the market, and for the cross-border trade as well. So these motorways, when they were built with the motive of reducing the travel time, there was an inherent problem of congestion on the toll plazas and taking a long queues for the toll plazas to pass through the. So if you're reaching 4 years ago, if you were traveling from Islamabad to Lahore, you would travel for 4.5 hours from Islamabad to Lahore, and it would take at least 2 hours to cross the Ravi toll plaza. So you reached Lahore, but you cannot enter into the Lahore for at least 2 hours just because of the congestion.
True.
So at that point in time, it was understood that we need to have a digital innovation, and we need to make sure that this is the technology advancement is required, so that we can make the digital toll collections, and so that we can improve this. So to build that, just to make that toll plaza congestion eased out, we had to build the whole infrastructure behind it, and that infrastructure includes the network infrastructure. So we have, in a year, you were talking about one telephone line to be established between San Francisco and New York.
For 1 year.
It took 1 year.
Yes.
So in 1 year, we have now the technology advancement is at that level that in 1 year we have deployed about 2,000 kilometers of fiber optic network across Pakistan.
That's wonderful.
So that fiber optic network is now used for communication between the toll plazas and the central data center. So we have worked on deploying those technology and made that communication so robust that when you're traveling, if you are just passing, for example, you're entering for Islamabad and you're exiting at Fatehjung, so it's hardly a 10 minutes difference.
True.
10 minutes travel. So less than 10 minutes, your information has to be on the Fatehjung plaza, that you're going to cross that plaza and everything. And now we have also seen that with the induction of all these digital payment services that we have introduced for our commuters from our application. So now by the time they're just reaching out near to the toll plaza, they recharge their MTech and pass through the within a few minutes or seconds, they pass through the express lane. So previously, from like I said, that it took 2 hours to clear the Ravi toll plaza, but now in express lane it takes only 5 seconds for a vehicle with a good balance in MTAG to pass through the toll lane.
Right.
just 5 seconds.
Right, and it has compressed congestion a lot. It has digitally connected a lot of people and obviously reduced the time and effort, and that is the need of the hour. And we've seen that how important it is to remain enhanced with the technology, to remain digitally connected. And if you are not digitally connected, so you will feel that you are left out and you are missing out a bigger chunk of the modernization, of the upgradation, especially which has gripped the world. So Ms. Fatma, now let's touch upon some of the very interesting developments that took place when we talk about the digital communication, digital technologies. In the COVID era, obviously it was a very tough time for the entire world. There was isolation, there was a pandemic, and people were crowded into their homes, and they were practicing the self-isolation, right? But we've seen that there were some of the norms that took place, especially things that we used to think, oh, that might not happen because of the this and problem, but COVID has straightened it out. It has regularized a lot of newer norms, and that too in terms of digital technologies, right? So how do you see the development of the digital communication technologies, the connectivity post-COVID and pre-COVID, and how do you compare these two eras?
So yeah, you're absolutely right. So like when you have to when you're building an infrastructure of a road or a community, you initiate a lot of economic activity around it, you know. So wherever you're going to have a road, you're going to have a lot of shops, you're going to have a petrol pump and all other accessories which are related for the travel, and then a lot of economic activity will evolve with it. So similarly, when you are isolated and when you are confined in your homes and in your communities and you are unable to go out and everything, but your needs are there. I mean, you need to buy medicines, you need to buy groceries, you need to buy everything. So that means that there is a need for development of that kind of ecosystem, which is going to help you get everything while not going out. Right. So in the pre-COVID era, there was a lot of startups who have worked on the delivery services, who have worked on the grocery, online grocery purchasing and everything, and online medication purchasing.
Yes.
And even in the pre-COVID era, we could not even think of connecting to a doctor digitally.
That's true, that's true.
Right, and we could not even think of connecting to the university or the teachers or the schools digitally.
Yes.
I mean, it was next to impossible.
True.
And a lot of people would think that they won't be able to perform their jobs if they're not in the office.
True.
Right, but in the COVID era, everything has changed. So everyone had to be connected by their doorstep.
True.
And that means there was a huge penetration of internet, and where there was no infrastructure for the wired internet like fiber optic and the other wire network was not available, the mobile internet services have grew, you know, many folds in those 2 years. So that 2 years has changed the whole world.
That's true.
And there's a lot of economic activity generated. Now the people who are growing some organic vegetables in their local small farm, you also know that in Islamabad as well.
That's true.
So people who are growing their organic vegetables in their small farms are now directly connected to the buyer within Islamabad, and they're directly delivering their, you know.
The role of middleman has reduced a lot.
Exactly.
Yes.
So there is like there is a huge reduction in brick and mortar stores.
That's true.
I mean, they don't need to find a store where they would keep their produce.
True.
And then they don't have to go in a long-term credit.
That's true.
And the huge economic activity has, you know, evolved with it.
That's
and you've seen how teachers and schools have connected with the students, and how innovative they have been in making those connections, how they are making all these technologies that people and that students and their parents are using, so they're reaching out through all those channels.
True.
And similarly, the universities are doing the same thing, and then like now even the offices, all type of services are also having the work from home culture, that their, you know, remote working culture was not there at all.
That's true.
So now that it has evolved to an extent.
It has evolved, and we've seen that how, especially in the corporate sector, I've been listening to couple of my friends who work in the corporate sector, that how one day, I think it's Friday, that's work from home, and that has reduced substantially the cost, the administrative cost, particularly for the corporate sector, and for the also people, because they can work from the home, which was considered to be something unimaginable in pre-COVID days, and it was considered that no, it can't happen. But there are a lot of new norms, good norms obviously, that have been established in the aftermath of the pandemic. But Ms. Fatma, this entire conversation about digital connectivity, about the interconnectedness, brings us a very important point regarding the digital divide, right? And we've seen that in Pakistan, yes, there is a budging younger population, more than 60% of that, and they have smartphone penetration. But there are areas where there is not that much of a smartphone penetration, or the technology has not reached those areas, right? These are the fringes of the country, they are the peripheries of the country, and we've seen that they cannot take the benefit from this division or diffusion of the technology, right? So we say that yes, digital technology can upgrade your lifestyle, and it is a leveler, but at the same time it is also a divider, right? So how can we bring those particular folds, fringes, communities, underprivileged communities that do not have access to technologies into the mainstream, and make sure that they're also bearing the fruit of this digital innovation and connectivity?
So there are two things that are associated with this digital divide and with this. One is the infrastructural development, the infrastructure investments that are required by the telecommunication sector,
Right.
and maybe the government as well. So that is being catered for by all the telecommunication industry by contributing a percentage of their revenues to the Universal Services Fund, which is the USF in Pakistan, and that fund actually helps in connecting all those unconnected and the communities where there is lesser economic value for the telecommunication companies, so that they're not investing in expanding their network. So USF fund then is directed towards those areas. That areas includes the interior Sindh, the interior, even in Balochistan,
True.
the areas of Fata
Punjab.
and South Punjab as well. So that is where they're investing those funds. Similarly, the telecommunication industry is also looking forward to expand their network and bringing those unserved communities into their network, because they also have to do some of the CSR activities on their own as well.
True.
So these telecommunication companies are also investing in another interesting development that recently has occurred is that in the pandemic era, there were small entrepreneurs who were in the community, who were living in the community. They have been able to be interconnected within that community. So they have evolved as those service providers, or the extended arms of the telecommunication companies. So instead of telecommunication company investing heavily into the community, those have, like I said, that economic activity evolved. So that is also an economic activity for them. They have internally made their arrangements. And now they're looking for, and those now small companies are also on the radar by the Telecommunication Authority as well. So they're also working on to giving them the licenses, and they're also working on upgrading their licensing regime to bring in all those small entrepreneurs as well. So this is a huge development that has happened within the 2 years. So it's not like that this definitely, because the technology has a price tag to it, and that price tag everyone cannot afford. So a lot of subsidized technology has to be provided. So the government has done quite a lot of work in previous years to make the schools enable, and particularly the remote schools enabled with the technologies. There have been a lot of international funding around this as well. Telecommunication organizations, the companies, the MNCs are also putting their foot forward. There are a lot of other MNCs who are also investing into it. So yes, the channelizing is important, and I think that is something that the regulatory authority and the government has to look into it, that how to channelize that and how to identify all those unserved pockets which are still unserved by even providing all this information to them. You know, so what we can do is that we can actually leverage out the infrastructure that we have built for something else. We have built it for the motorways, for making the you know tolling and intelligent transportation services, but since we have deployed that 2,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable across Pakistan, we are able to have, because we have deployed it at the telecommunication standards, so we are able to leverage that out to the telecommunication industry, that now if they want to go into the area where they do not have the infrastructure, they can utilize our infrastructure to extend.
Thank you so much for saying that, Ms. Fatma. And with that, I would like to conclude what Ms. Fatma said, and to borrow a phrase from Ms. Fatma, that we need to tap into that unserved potential or unserved pockets of that area where the internet penetration, where the smartphone penetration is not yet there. And we need to tap that untapped potential, because Pakistan, young people in Pakistan, they are the fastest growing market, particularly when we talk about the YouTube. And that is why you see that Google is very keen to open its offices in Pakistan, because it wants to capture that market which is particularly prevalent in Pakistan. And something very interesting that she pointed it out, and she said that we have the infrastructure already in the place for something else, and we can tap that infrastructure for having a good and a comprehensive digital connection, digital connectivity, because to live in the 21st century and without the digital connection is, I think, something very unimaginable, and that should not be happening, especially to the underprivileged or underserved communities out there. Thank you so much, Ms. Fatma, for coming here, for observing the World Telecommunication Day. And with that, we are going on a short break. After I come back, we are going to develop a very interesting conversation, that too resonating with the theme of Jummah, because it is a very spiritual day, that particularly in the Islamic history, or in the Islamic, what do you call it, the spirit. So we are going on a short break, and after we come back, don't go anywhere. Welcome back, and before going on to the break, I alluded to the fact that we are going to develop a very interesting conversation that will resonate with particularly the spirit of Jummah, because Jummah is considered to be a very holy day in Islamic tradition. So today we are going to talk about the role of scholarship, particularly the knowledge propagation in Islam, and how vital it is upon the Islamic scholars, the community leaders of particularly Islamic, in the transmission of the knowledge, and what exactly constitute knowledge, and how important it is for the scholars to be more learned and not to misguide people, because we have seen particularly in this digital era and the role of social media, that how every other person is propagating information out on the social media, and we have seen that without proper referencing, without proper what do you call it, the guidance, how people are getting misguided on the social media. So we're going to explore that, how this culture of online dawah, the online tabligh, what are its implications, and how can we further enhance the role of Islamic scholars, that to protect our society and to protect our younger people without dividing the society, without fragmenting it, and without polarizing our society. So to further develop this conversation, I'm very glad that I have been once again joined by our favorite religious scholars, who happens to be Imran Sandhu Saab. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for coming.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. So it's been quite a while since you last been on our show. So Imran Saab, let's develop this conversation further. And we've seen that how do you evaluate the roles of scholars, particularly in the Ummah, when we talk about it? And we were also developing this conversation that we've seen this online culture of dawah, of tabligh, and how it does have its own merits, but we've seen that how there are people on the social media that are misguiding people out there, and people are, and how important it is for the people to get themselves educated and without blindly following what is being said on the social media, particularly.
Nahmaduhu wa nusalli wa nusallimu ala rasulihil kareem. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum to everybody who's listening, to the Sameen. So, you know, we know that there are two types of knowledges. One is the revealed knowledge, and the other is, or inspired knowledge, and the other is the acquired knowledge. So, you know, if we see all the acquired knowledge the base of that, the source of this acquired knowledge is human experimentation and experience and observation. These are the three sources of acquired knowledge, whereas the source of inspired knowledge is the wahi,
True, true. The revelation.
the revelation that was revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Sallallahu alaihi
And we know by the virtue of the virtue of Quran, wama yantiqu anil hawa, Prophet did not speak from his own self.
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. True.
So one type of knowledge is coming from, has come from Lawh-e Mahfuz through Quran and through the Sunnah of the Prophet.
Sallallahu alaihi
We Muslims believe that all the acts, all the aqwal or the hadith, and all the implied actions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is also inspired knowledge. It was inspired. Like if Prophet is seeing somewhere, it is inspired from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the process. On the other hand, if we see the worldly knowledge, in Arabic we use two words. These are ulum and they are funun. Funun is the contemporary worldly knowledge. In order to acquire knowledge, for example, knowledge of engineering, knowledge of being a doctor, tabib, you have to go through a process. Although it is very difficult to become a doctor, almost impossible to become a doctor. If we get ill, we are not going to go to an engineer to get ourselves operated.
Yes.
And if we need to build a house or a bridge, we are not going to go to a doctor.
That's true.
The reason is it has come through experience, experimentation and observation. Similarly, the acquired knowledge also has now come through experience and ijtihad. So there is a common legacy from the era of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to me and to you, that this knowledge has been inspired and transmitted 1400 years ago through a process. It cannot be like the first university that was created by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the platform of Sufa.
Okay.
This was the first university that was just created besides the Masjid of. If you go to Masjid al-Nabawi, you still see that small platform where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would come and teach Quran and his Sunnah to the students over there, and that from there all the silsila or all the transmission of knowledge has started, and it has come 1400 years to us. So much so, initially the Quran was taken care of, and then Huffaz were actually taught how to teach, how to do hifz of Quran, and then the hadith.
Right.
Now what happens is, when a person is not a doctor, and in this, and he gives advice, and he opens a shop over here and says that I'm not a doctor, but I have read everything. Would you go and get a medicine from him? Rather, it is written, get a medicine from a qualified doctor. Similarly, how the religious knowledge has evolved. We also say, the contemporary ulama say that because they have gone through that process, the 1400 years precedence, and all the knowledge being taught over there is referred to Quran and Hadith, not by implication, but by factualization. You go and ask for fatwa from a qualified scholar. Otherwise, what will happen is, a person who is just reading and giving you fatwa through Google, he might not be able to give you the fatwa rightly, because he has not gone through the process. Maybe there is a saying, Neem Hakim, Khatra-e Jaan, Neem Mullah, Khatra-e Iman.
True.
So if you want to save your faith, you have to go through qualified scholars. yes, there is a difference of opinion amongst the scholars, and we can and say so is the difference of opinion in every field of science as
That's true. That's true. Thank you for pointing it out. And we've seen that diversity of the opinion, differences of the opinion, bring more beauty to the conversation, and it should not be a source of division, fragmentation, polarization. But unfortunately, we have seen in the history that how there was extreme polarization, fragmentation, and to this day we see that it is flourishing and surviving. But now, Imran Sandhu Sahab, let's touch on a very important point. For me, it's very important, and I've seen particularly when I see the religious scholars or hear religious scholars on the YouTube, particularly on their online dawah and online tabligh. So one thing that I particularly find is that there are scholars who are saying stuff or who are propagating the religious knowledge, and they are not giving the references for that, right? So it is deemed, especially for the listeners or for the viewers, for the consumers, that whatever they are saying, their standing should be considered as a credible, right, as a credible source, as a trustworthy source. So I do feel that it's very important for the scholars to give proper referencing for whatever they are saying, right? And as Hazrat Ali said, that you need to do not inherit your religion, rather learn it, right? And seek the truth, seek the light out there. So, you know, what is your opinion, particularly as a religious scholars, for the people who say without proper referencing, or I mean, not just in every line, but generally you need to give proper referencing so that people can get educated, and if they want to cross-check the information, so they have proper reference for that.
A very, very pertinent and I would say important question. Giving reference is not that important.
Okay.
Giving the right reference is important.
True. That's true.
You know, if the problem is, there are two kind of people coming on the internet. One is properly qualified scholars, and one is who are not qualified. They have done their own research without going to a religious
seminary,
a school, a religious school or seminary. The problem is not this, that reference is given or not. The problem is first that the question and answer, whatever he is explaining, he is explaining in the right way with the right reference. I'll again give an example. Their books are over there, all the medical science books are over there, and all the religious books are. The Quran is there, the Hadith is there, Fiqhul Quran is there, and Fiqhul Hadith is as well there. But the problem is, the problem that I see more often over here is that there are some pseudo religious scholars who are interpreting the same Quran and Hadith out of context in and developing a wrong aqidah of the people.
True.
So I say references should be there, but whether the reference is in the right direction or right context, that is the problem. If I read a medical science book and somebody comes to me and says that I've got a headache, I just give him a Desperine, and I don't ask him, and I tell him that this Desperine is written in this book, but that the source of headache is not a mere headache, rather an accident. That this means he might have hemorrhage.
True.
So this is an example of what they are doing. They are giving the people who are not been taught by proper religious system, proper religious scholar, they are giving references out of context, and then they are misguiding people that look, this is in Bukhari and this is in Muslim and this is in this book and that book, this is in Quran, and what they are doing is they are trying to impose their own aqaid in order to do this. This is wrong. You have to get your aqidah from Quran and Sunnah rather than quoting ayahs out of context and whatever you think is right imposing upon people. So this is how you go off of the precedent.
True.
And you misguide people.
That's very true, and I think that's very important to have And I think Hazrat Ali's quote cannot be more appropriate for this particular situation, which Imran Sadhu Sahib has also mentioned, that you need to learn your religion and do your own research and make sure that you are going to the right people for the guidance out there, because as we say that our religious scholars are a moral compass of the society and they have to guide the people out there. So when we talk about the scholarship, when we particularly talk about the Islamic knowledge, so one of the thing when we talk about the development of the early Islamic knowledge is that we see, and there are lots of narrations that were verbally transmitted, right, from the word of the mouth, and we've seen that there was some very amazing khutbahs, there were very amazing conversations that were lost to the tune of the history because they could not reach it. They were not written in any book or in any whatever the skin that was used at that particular time. And so we've seen that the compilation was these books started I think after 300 years of the death of the Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is why we see that there are lots of differences between different schools of thoughts, right? So how can we have a more comprehensive dialogue that can not divide the society, but rather we can flourish those sciences back again? Because when we talk about the verbal communication, obviously there are things that can be lost to the tune of the history as compared to the written history out there. And then when we say history usually a lot of people say is like his story, right? So whatever you are saying, it's one opinion. So we don't know what happened in the past because it has been lost to the.
That's an interesting way to put it. His story, yes.
Yes.
So it is. Yes, it is his story. Quran and Sunnah, and the sources of Quran and Sunnah. There was a process that was documented. The Sunnah was there.
Sunnah was not documented. It was later documented.
Yes, Sunnah was there, very much there, and you could see the process over there in the books of Hadith. 6 people from Ajam came, the 6 authentic books of Hadith, and those are not the only books. There are other couple of books, but when you compile them and when you see those books, you see the same ahadith with the same meanings. This is the ijaz of the Sunnah, I would say. You find innamal a'malu binniyat in almost all of the hadith, even though the muhaddiseen came from so wide across the world, like one from Bukhara, one from Tirmidh in Balochistan. They went to Hijaz, they talked to people, they documented, and the result was 99% tally. There was a bit of difference in the word that was narrated, but the mafhum or the understanding was the same. Why does difference of opinion occur? It is the difference of opinion will always occur because the intellectual level of the people understanding the same thing would be different.
True.
If you see a classroom, the difference of opinion, how can you graduate difference of opinion? Some children are going to take A grade, some are going to take B grade, some are going to, and they will do this, they have read the same book, but when you are going to get the grades, because of the difference of understanding of the people. So we have to look towards the ulama who have the best understanding of the deen.
How do we decide that?
It is already part of the history. Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Jafar Sadiq, Imam Shafi'i, these are great scholars. They have, and then scholars after them, and generation after generation, the legacy has been adopted. The good thing is, after 1400 years, not even a single harf of Quran and not even a single word of Hadith has changed. Alhamdulillah, there's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars, but the source is the same. I'll give you an example. There are small differences in our namaz, in our salah, but the main core structure of the salah is same. There's small difference in La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah and some kalimat in Aqidah, but the core structure is again the same. Hajj, we do Hajj all together. Like there are different things that people do from different part of, but the core is very much the same. Same goes for every part of religious knowledge. The core is the same. Now you can
The
say,
core is Quran.
it is too good to be true. You can say, sir, it is too good to be true. There's lots of difference of opinion. I again tell that the reason of difference of opinion is the change of intellectual level. But when we see the result, when we see the end point, the whole of the ummah agrees on Quran and the Sunnah, and Allah has made it like this. Look, now per se, if you see the book Torah, it is not even the same dialect.
True.
So is Injil, so is Zabur. The four kitabs are not even in the same dialect, but Quran is in the same dialect.
True.
And Allah says in the Quran, and it is a challenge for the whole of the humanity, that bring forth one surah like this.
True.
فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن
Allah
مِثْلِ
says
وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُمْ
Yes.
مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. This means, and the reason Allah explains in Quran is that their scholars have changed the dialect, the origin dialect and the mafahim. But now you say, now we can definitely deduct from here that our scholars have not changed it, rather they have
Interpreted it.
secured it.
Right.
So the scholars have been secured as well.
Right. Thank you so much, Imran Sandhu Sahab, for having this cross-pollination of ideas regarding the knowledge transmission, knowledge propagation, and particularly in the Islamic tradition, and how can we access the knowledge which we feel is more credible and which we feel will not misguide people. And so with that, I am bidding you farewell. Until next time, it's a goodbye. Allah Hafiz. Juma Mubarak to everyone out there, and good morning.
आपको
Thank
बहुत
you so
मुबारक
much.
हो, ये बहुत ही ज़बरदस्त अच्छा program.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And with that, of course, again, we are bidding you farewell, and Juma Mubarak to everyone out there. And once again, I say that it's very, very much important how the knowledge transmission should be done. And knowledge transmission, when we talk in the Islamic terms, you've seen that how polarization, fragmenting and dividing the religious scholars can be when we talk about particularly, and we've seen that too in the history, and it has been going on for a very long time. It's not the story of this particular modern era, it is not the story of this modern age, but it is the story which has been repeated again and again, and how to protect from this fitna. It's very much important. So with that, I'm bidding you farewell. Allah Hafiz once again, and Juma Mubarak to everyone out there.